to Kay Bailey Hutchison, of course, the former Texas senator, more importantly, the former U.S. ambassador to NATO 2017 to 2021, all during the Trump years. Ambassador, great to have you.
Thank you very much, Neil. It's great to be with you.
Same here. You know, Ukraine seems to be smarting at them not taking up NATO membership right now, and that's divided some NATO leaders. What do you think of the president's rationale for delaying that, essentially until the war is done?
I think that has to be the condition. No question that Article 5 is inviolate, and it means if we have one of our allies attacked, we will all be in a war. And I think the president is right not to go that far. But I think what Ukraine is getting is very significant and very much more than most of the new allies have gotten. And that is to take away the two-condition requirement and make it one condition. And the reason for that, Neil, is that they are giving so much now in interoperability right now that it will be a smoother entrance for NATO accession when the war is over.
You know, I was thinking, and knowing you were going to be coming today, Ambassador, I was very excited about it because, you know, your old boss, Donald Trump, is running for president again. He has said that he could end this Ukraine conflict with Russia in a day. As you know, the former Vice President Mike Pence said, yeah, by ceding to every one of Vladimir Putin's demands. But what do you think of that statement?
Well, I think Mike Pence is taking the right position, and that is we definitely need to help Ukraine win this war, but not with our troops on the ground. And I think that is the essential difference. And I think it is important that we help Ukraine and then welcome them into NATO after that war is won and when we have helped them win that war.
Do you know, Ambassador, what the former president meant by ending this in a day, what he was offering?
Have no idea.
Are you supporting him running for president again?
I am not supporting him. I am not involved in the presidential race. I think we have a number of very strong candidates. And I think all of us are hoping that we will have a choice for Americans that will address the issues that Americans are facing now. And we have so many. Security is number one on my agenda, but of course the economic inflation is very high on everyone's agenda. And we've got to have responsible spending, a stronger effort in stopping illegal immigration, and most certainly continuing the strength of NATO as America is the leader, and America needs to be the leader of NATO, and we need to have the complete unity of NATO as we face many adversaries in the world right now.
So the reason why I mentioned the former president is John Bolton, the former national security advisor, fears that if he were to become president again, he could be a security threat to our nation in a second term. Your old boss, technically, Rex Tillerson, the former Secretary of State, had gone so far as to say that the former president is pretty undisciplined, doesn't like to read, and I would worry if he returned to office. Do you worry if he were returned to office?
I do not think that he should be the Republican nominee for president. I think we need to have a presidential nominee that agrees that we need to support Ukraine, agrees that we need to cut spending, will attack the tough issues that face this country. And I don't think we should be looking at the past with either President Biden or President Trump. I think it is time for the next generation of leadership in America, and I think we have a lot of strong people that I have known in my Republican time that are competing now.
Would you support whoever the nominee is, even if it is Donald Trump?
That's a hard question for me. I want to support the nominee. I so believe in a two-party system. I have dealt with Europeans that have multi-party systems, and I think it is unstable. I think having a two-party system gives a clarity when people vote that they will be able to see the people that have the majority elected. And so I believe in a two-party system, and I want, of course, the Republican Party to be strong. I think there should be a strong Democratic Party as well. But I think the policies of the Republican Party are the right policies for taking our country forward with security and with certainly economic common sense.
Got it. That's very delicately answered, Ambassador. Touche there. Very good seeing you again.
Hey, thank you, Neil. Glad to be with you.
Ambassador Hutchison.